I got a little book recommendation for you guys. The Song of the Cell, An Exploration of Medicine and the New Human by Siddhartha Mukherjee. This book was great. I'm like really big into history, so I really like looking at the history of medicine and seeing how recent it is that we've discovered everything. So I love that he goes back into detail on like viruses, bacteria, pathogens, and then brings it into present day, like cancer research and rejuvenation, what we know on the immune function and immune therapies. So I love this book. I thought it was great, and I really highly recommend it. You know, anything involving the cell, you could pretty much count me in. So that was one of the best books. Books have really impacted my life since I got out of school. That was really when I started reading, when I realized that I liked learning, but I don't really necessarily like being in a position where people are telling me to learn. I like to kind of do it on my own. So I love books for that reason, because I can kind of just choose where I'm going, what I'm learning, and I don't have to be on a specific pathway, but I can kind of take it all in. And you know, so I got a lot of, you know, a lot of stuff that I've read in the past popped up in this book too. So I'm always using it to cross-reference, and like things like the sunlight, he didn't talk about the sunlight at all in this book, right? But he talked a lot about the immune system and our ability to recover, and he talked a lot about blood because he's also a hematologist. So just taking all that information and applying it and kind of just keeping an open mind about things, super important. But anyway, I've been on the off-road learning journey for a while, and YouTube is one of the, I call it YouTube University, because it's also one of the resources that I use to find authors and books like this, and to find podcasts and other things like that. I've used YouTube since I've been out of school, and I just like learning better in that way as well. So I wanted to mention something I made videos on yesterday, and that was engaging with our food diet to help the nutrients break down properly. Because a few years ago, I lacked the ability to digest well. I found myself in a position where I was bloated and I had a lot of inflammation, and I would have been in the category of saying I don't digest the meats as well, right? Because as a society in general, we have a lower depression of energy. A lot of people really are just experiencing digestive issues, right? It's bringing energy into the cell. So we have to use our environment to help break down these chemicals into what we want, right? Because we're biochemists, we're powerful biochemists. So when we eat food, it doesn't matter what type of food it is. It could be a pineapple, it could be a ribeye steak. That information, right? Because it's just a code. The pineapple and the steak, they're just a code, right? It's a certain code of amino acids. This is the pineapple, this is the steak. They're relatively similar, right? They have similar amino acids, right? But the steak, obviously, again, complete profile of the amino acids, so I'm going to get a bit more there. And once it's in the body, it has multiple options, multiple breakdown pathways, right? So I always talk about tryptophan is my favorite, because that is the one that led me, you know, down this path, making this video right now. Tryptophan can break down into serotonin and melatonin, but it can also break down into a different pathway. And this pathway is related to a lot of some of the disease states that we see, right? So as important as I knew it was to be getting the proper precursors to these neurotransmitters that I was allegedly low and imbalanced, chemically imbalanced with, I knew that I had to eat the foods that were going to help me, but I also had to engage with my diet in a way, in a physical, kinetic way. So that'd be going out in the sunlight, right? Breaking down that tryptophan pathway properly into the proper position so I can create more serotonin and melatonin. Resistance training so that I can help break that down into the proper pathway, right? And our food is like this. I mean, I always say this, you get to a certain point when you're in the aging process, right? And you could have the best fuel in the game, like a car. You could have the best fuel, the purest fuel in the game. But when you're older, this vehicle degrades and decays, and we, over time, lose the ability to digest. What do I mean by this? The cell. I was looking for my little cell picture. We lose the ability to take in nutrients into the cell, intracellularly. So this is always the things that mix people up, right? Hydration. People think hydration. Okay, I'm gonna say, I tell a lot of people, they're like, oh, I experienced some muscle cramps. I'm like, you're probably dehydrated. Or they say they have a headache, you're probably dehydrated. Oh, but I drink a ton of water. It's not about water, it's really about your mitochondrial functioning. We need to focus on energy production within the cell so that we can take these minerals, nutrients, water, whatever we're intaking, and we can actually use it for energy. As if we look at diabetes, diabetic people who are going through that disease, they're actually starving intracellularly because the energy that they are intaking, right, and it becomes a cycle. You just start eating. Our hunger hormone raises, right? Our satiety hormone lowers. So we have the signal to keep on eating and eating and eating, but that energy that we're intaking is not getting into the cell. So actually one of the reasons they discovered diabetes was one of the doctors back in the Gap, which is cool. I, again, like this book for that reason, was they drank one of the patients' pee and found that it was really sugary. So the sugar has to go somewhere, so it'll come out in the urine. Or even things like, too, a lot of diabetics will, I'm pointing to my own eyes, because they'll develop cataracts. Cataracts is a blockage, a buildup. And what do you notice about that? That growth factor. The growth factor, insulin is turned on too much. Again, we don't want this chronic on switch, because that's going to be bad for other things that want to grow and feed themselves. We want to be able to shut off and have the immune system come in regularly, like every single day. So understanding hydration is a huge thing that we need to, in general, relearn. We hydrate by our mineral balance. So like the core 4 minerals: magnesium, potassium, sodium, and calcium. And again, mitochondria are responsible for calcium homeostasis in the cell. So it is so important to focus on mitochondrial functioning. How do you do that? How do we do that? Well, we can do that through our kinetic movement. So anytime you move intentionally, you're engaging with your mitochondria, right? You can engage with them in a lot of different ways. But even just taking a moment to think about how much energy our bodies actually produce. They say it's something like there's like 10 million billion mitochondria altogether in our body. That's an insane number. But the problem is that when we don't have these mitochondria working, we literally cut off our energy supply by like 75%. Our mitochondria are responsible for the majority of the energy that we can produce in the body. And that is metabolic disease. The hallmarker of energy diseases is the dysfunction of these little mitochondria. So we want to find ways to stimulate the mitochondria, right, to feed it. Which amino acids in my diet are going to be helpful? You know, do I want to stay away from processed sugars and oils? Probably. Do I want to become aware of the other toxins in my environment, try and cut them out as best as possible? Because at the end of the day, like here I am using this phone, and we have a lot of Wi-Fi and a lot of radiation going around. So that's also affecting all these ion channels within the cell. It's causing them to be rigid. It's causing them to become dehydrated. Accelerated aging is what we're seeing in the general society, right? People my age are going through, right, we have new diagnosis coming up. We have new diagnosis coming up for new diseases of this age. So we have things like PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, that a lot of women my age are experiencing. This is a loss in hormone function. This is crazy. We also have diabetes type 3, Alzheimer's, dementia rising up, accelerated aging. So how do we slow down this process of oxidation? We have to choose foods. We got to stay away from those processed sugars, those oils. So we know those oils destroy cell function and cause a lot of oxidation. And just focus on that mitochondrial functioning, guys. Focus on that light exposure. Our mitochondria are really, really in tune with the light exposure that we get or we don't get. So stay away from the blue light at night. Get the infrared light in the morning and the afternoon. And slowly but surely give your body the enough amino acids that you can give. Keep moving, one exercise in the morning, a one set wonder in the morning. And like, you'd be so surprised how easy it could be. I think a lot of people think that it has to be super, super hard, right? You got to go in the gym and you got to squat 300 pounds. When I started dialing back and looking at my habits rather than focusing on what I needed to do, now there are things in the morning that I have non-negotiable for, like drinking water, right? I try to move my body, try to go on a walk, a little walk, and I definitely try to get out in the sunlight if it's out. So those are non-negotiables for me. But that's again like taking your toddler and saying, look, you need to brush your teeth. It's really important that you brush your teeth because it's healthy for you. You must go to sleep because it's healthy for you. So we have to do these for our bodies. We got to ask our bodies, hey, what do you need? And then we just give it to them and watch them heal over time. It takes time to heal, especially if you've gotten off the path. But you'd be surprised when you start to combine all these habits together, how fast and furious you could see things happen. So anyway, if this video was helpful, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, good luck.